Hey guys, welcome back to eGurus. This is just a guide on the Sacrier class. I'm just going to be going over some of his specialty spells and explaining what they're good for and what their uses are in a practical sense. The first one here is called Attraction. It's a pretty useful spell in big groups where you need people protected or you need to pull someone away from someone else. This can be used on a teammate or on an enemy. It doesn't do any damage, so if you need to pull an enemy or a teammate closer to you so that you can get them out of the heat of battle, then it's useful that way. It can also be used to pull an enemy towards you in case someone is locked in place, which can happen if they don't have enough dodge, or just to pull an enemy closer to you that keeps trying to run away from you. It has a lot of uses, so. The next one is called Transposition. This spell is very useful in a lot of applications. Once you level it up a little bit further, you can see that on the lower levels it says on an allied target only, and then once you level it up you can do enemy targets as well. So basically what this spell does is switch places with your enemy or allied target, whichever one is chosen, and you have from 1 to 7 blocks around you, and you are allowed to completely swap places with them in case of someone dying or you trying to get into the center of the battle to build up more of your damage or whatnot. So that's a very popular spell with Sacriers. How you level these spells is entirely up to you. Everyone has their own preference, but this is definitely one of the favorites in the Sacrier realm, just because Sacriers are useful for support a lot in their game. So whenever you're leveling with someone and they need help, they need you to take some hits for them, Transposition is a great way to do that. The next spell is called Sacrifice. It's pretty self-explanatory. You basically just put this spell on one of your teammates, and whatever damage they take from anyone for that turn, you will actually take the damage for them, and you will switch places with them. So if you put this spell on someone and you run away 5 spaces, then if they get hit, you'll switch with them, and they'll be where you were standing, those 5 paces away. It can be very convenient if you have someone who's a ranged battler, then they can do their damage from their range, and you can just be in the heat of the battle, building up your anger as a Sacrier. The next spell is called Life Transfer. I've never actually used this spell. I believe it's new, but basically what it does is takes your HP and gives it to one of your teammates. Again, this spell can be used in a lot of team applications. It's not very useful for yourself because you don't really ever get to transfer life to yourself, which would be fantastic, but if you take from your pool and put it into your pool, well, that's kind of ridiculous. So yeah, this spell basically just takes your HP and gives part of it. Unfortunately, not all of the HP that comes from you goes to them, but it does give a decent percent, so that's what that spell is used for. This next spell is called Sanguine Armor. It's a spell that was recently added. It is basically a shield that you are allowed to put on using your Wakfu points, and it builds depending on how many times you get hit in a turn and how many spells you use. It takes a percentage of your HP and applies that on top of your HP, so you have just like a little buffer before you actually start taking damage. So the way it works is, over here down at the bottom it says for every 5 anger you get +1 coagulation, and that coagulation allows you to get 1% of your HP on top of your HP as a shield. So if you get enough of that coagulation to stack up, then you can get a bunch of damage on the turn mitigated so that you actually have a buffer of however many hit points you can stack up to. So if say you get coagulation up to 100, which is fairly difficult, but if you can, you get in my case, I would have 284 hit points of shield on top of the 284 hit points of life that I had. So if someone hit me for 50, 100, 200 HP, it wouldn't even damage me at all because I have that shield buffer in front of my HP. So that just takes the hit and nothing happens to my actual HP. It's very useful. I love it. It's a good new spell. This spell is a passive spell. These are all the passive spells on the bottom. These are the ones you actually have to activate up here on the top. Anger is exclusive to Sacriers. Anger is a system that they added in Wakfu that was not in Dofus. With this spell, basically the more hits you take, the stronger you get. And using anger, the stronger you get gets amplified by what they call multi-arm. And multi-arm basically comes out, it's exactly what it says there. You just get more arms that actually pop out of your body. It looks pretty funny, but it's actually really helpful. So once that anger stacks up and people keep hitting you a lot and it just keeps going up and up, once it gets over 35, you get the first multi-arm, which 2 arms pop out of the back of you, out of your back, and you just end up doing 20% more damage, and you have a bonus to your luck as well. When you get that anger over 70, you get 2 more arms, so you've got 6 arms popped out of you, 6 arms including the 2 that are already on you, and you get plus 40% damage and plus 40 luck. And as you progress, 40% damage can be a big amount of damage. So if you've been taking big hits the whole game, and your anger is right up there at the top, you'll be doing a nice little extra amount of damage for taking those hits for the team. So the sacrifice always comes with a benefit. Blood Pact is another very beneficial spell when you're in a group, mainly when there's a lot of people in your group. But it also helps when there's just 1 or 2 people as well. Basically, for every person on your team that you have in a fight with you, you gain a bonus percentage of HP. So, just the more people that are in there, the more HP you're going to have. But also your team benefits, because when you put this, when this spell is leveled up and activates in the fight, everyone that's with you gets a bonus HP. So not only does your character benefit, but it benefits the entire team every single time you step into a fight. No activation necessary, you just walk into a fight and it's activated. The next spell is Moribund. This is another very popular spell with Sacriers, especially in PvP. What this spell does is, basically, everything that a Sacrier revolves around is taking damage to deal out more damage. And in this case, when you get down to 30% HP, you get a bonus to your damage, which at level 1 is plus 1% damage, but when you level this, when you're able to get Moribund to level 100, you get plus 100% more damage. It sounds a little bit overpowered, but it's not easy to do that, so it's really not as overpowered as it would seem. Once you get down to 15%, you get level 40 Moribund, and with level 40 Moribund, you get plus 40% more damage. So as you start to die, you start putting up a last stand, and you can really try to hold your own at the end of the fight. The favorite part of this spell here is the last, the real last stand, and that is once you're down to 1 HP, you will do 80% more damage, and that is a whole lot more damage. Towards the later levels, adding on, that's almost doing 2 times what you would do normally. So 80% damage is nothing to laugh at. The next spell here, it's called Clinging to Life. And this spell is a great spell to match with Moribund. Basically, this spell, if you, I believe, I'd have to read this really quickly because it may have changed recently. Alright, so basically as you level this spell, all that changes is that percentage, as you can see on the left there. It changes, and what that changes is basically the likelihood that you will receive impending death. And impending death is a fantastic PvP benefit. As you go down and reach that 1% over here that I was showing you, when you hit 1 HP, you gain that 80% damage bonus. And if you tag that along with Clinging to Life, once you go down to 1 HP, and they would normally kill you after that, if you level this all the way up, you have a 100% chance of applying Impending Death, which basically keeps you alive for that last turn. You become invincible for that last turn, and although you only have 1 HP and they would always normally kill you, you can't die. No matter what happens to you, you will not die. So, you become invincible and very, very powerful for your last 2 turns. So this is a real favorite in PvP because you never know what's going to happen, and it always usually comes down to the wire. So when it comes down to the wire, you get the last 2 really big hits. And if you can't pull it off, well, you probably wouldn't have won anyway, but those last 2 big hits can really be a game changer. The last spell here for the Sacriers is called Tattooed Blood. This is a new one as well. Basically, what this does is this plays along with Sanguine Armor that I showed you before, and a lot of the spells that you would use normally, but that's another time for another day. It plays with Coagulation just as Sanguine Armor does. Tattooed Blood increases, it gives you +1 and then +2 to increases in Coagulation. So wherever you would increase Coagulation when you apply Sanguine Armor, so for every 5 anger it says you get +1 level Coagulation. For Tattooed Blood, when this gets leveled up, you actually get +2 for everything that would give you a normal bonus of 1 to Coagulation. So every spell that you use in a turn that will boost your Coagulation, boosts it by 2 now. And with each boost to Coagulation, you obviously get more and more of that shield applied on top of your HP. So Tattooed Blood is a big benefit if you decide to go for a tanking build and that kind of play style. Whereas for PvP, a lot of people like to choose more Abounding Clinging to Life as opposed to this duo over here. Those are basically the specialty spells for the Sacrier. We've got a lot more videos coming to you guys soon, and I hope you guys stick along.